again on that complete the square worksheet from yesterday, and I think I told you yesterday, but it seems like kids learn this and then on the test they forget it and struggle. And it's not difficult to do, but there are a lot of steps involved, so it can be easy to make a mistake. So our first step, lock this, is to move the constant to the other side. So we get x squared minus 12x, leave a space, equals, oh shoot. This didn't end up working, did it? No, it did. Never mind. Okay, so what is my factor? X minus 6. So what's my perfect square? Plus 36 plus 36, which gives me 4, and 4 is a nice number because it square roots. So I take the square root, and I get x minus 6 equals plus or minus 2. Then I add 6, so 6 plus or minus 2. What are my roots? 6 plus 2 would be 8. 6 minus 2 would be 4. So this quadratic actually factors. If you wanted to use the box and factor, it would work. Okay? But the other one does not. If we look at it, are there factors of 12 that add to be 4? So if I were to factor 12, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, will any of those give me a negative 4? So, right, it would work if it was plus 2 and minus 6, but does plus 2 and minus 6 give us a positive 12? No. So this one actually does not work. So x squared minus 4x, leave a space, equals negative 12. What is my factor? X minus 2. So negative 2 times negative 2 is plus 4. Plus 4. So that's negative 8. If that number's negative, what's going to happen? I'm going to have an imaginary root, which means this quadratic does not touch the x-axis. So I square root, and I square root, and I get x minus 2 equals, well, let's simplify root negative 8. If I factor it, I get 2 and 4, 2 and 2. What am I looking for? Pears, not apples or peaches or plums. Is it too early? So, I can pull out a set of 2's, and the negative becomes an I, and the leftover is a 2. So the root of negative 8 is 2I root 2. Yeah, so over here we have plus or minus 2I root 2, and I add 2, and x equals 2 plus or minus 2I root 2. Does that make sense? Anybody stuck on a particular step in that process? Because it's about to get harder. Okay. So, what if I had x squared plus 5x plus 4 and x squared minus 11x plus, oh geez, I don't know, 6. We're going to solve it just like we did before. X squared plus 5x, leave a space, equals negative 4. Do you remember what my factor would be? We decided 2 days ago that, well, we don't like mixed numbers. They're no fun. And the decimals would work in this case, but it's a lot easier to square fractions. So to cut 5 in half, we're just going to write x plus 5 over 2. How do you square a fraction? Not double. No, that's how you cut it in half. So cut a fraction in half, you double the denominator, but to square it, you square the top and you square the bottom. So this would be plus 25 fourths. Everybody all right with that? Because it's 5 squared and 2 squared, and plus 25 fourths. Now, if you're good at adding fractions, you can just go ahead and convert the negative 4 into fourths and then add. My recommendation, however, is pull out your calculator. Have we done fractions on your calculators yet? A little bit. So you're just going to type in negative 4 plus 25 fourths. And then you push the math button, fraction. And the nice thing here is it will add them and it will simplify them all in one step. You didn't bring yours? So this is 9 fourths. Okay, anybody having trouble with getting that fraction with your calculator? Okay. So equals 9 over 4. And 9 over 4 is actually a really nice fraction when you take the square root. How come? They're both perfect squares. So when I square root, I'm going to square root the top and square root the bottom. And I get x plus 5 over 2 is equal to plus or minus 3 halves. We okay there? All right, so I add 5 halves. No, subtract. So I have negative 5 over 2 plus or minus 3 over 2. And you can do these in your head because they have the same denominator. What is negative 5 plus 3? Negative 2 halves would be negative 1. Good. And negative 5 over 2 minus 3 over 2, negative 8 over 2, which is equivalent to negative 4. Now, if you want to use your calculator to figure that out, that's fine. But here's a really common mistake. A lot of people say negative 5 plus or minus 3. So they just say negative plus or minus 8 over 2. But that doesn't work. You have to treat each one separately. Okay? All right. The next one's a little bit harder. So x squared minus 11x equals negative 6. What is my factor? X minus 11 halves squared. So what's my perfect square? Plus 121 over 4. So I'm going to add 121 over 4, and I don't know what that is. So negative 6 plus 121 fourths. 97 fourths, which is not nice. Okay, so square root, square root, square root, and I get x minus 11 halves equals plus or minus. Does 97 simplify? What goes into 97? Not 2. Does 3 go in? Not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6. What about 7? Not 7, not 8, not 9, not 10. And we don't need to go any further because 10 squared is 100. So once you get to that point, you can stop. So this is going to be root 97 over 2. Okay? So now we add 11 halves. 11 halves plus or minus root 97 halves. Well, those two fractions have the same denominator. So we're going to combine them, and we'll just say 11 plus 97 root 97 all over 2. And that is as simplified as it gets. Okay, now for a really hard one. Okay, we have a problem here. Completing the square does not work with the leading coefficient. Period. It just doesn't work, ever. So, what we need to do is go through and divide out the leading coefficient, even though it's not a common factor among all the terms. Okay? So, I'm just going to go ahead and divide everything by 4. That gives me x squared plus 5/4 x minus, well, let's move that over, equals 3/4. Now, maybe I should tell you this beforehand. We're going to solve these this way today, and then in a couple days, we're going to say that was a waste of my time, and I'm going to show you a different way to solve it that makes more sense. Okay, so sorry. We're gonna solve it the hard way, not because we're gonna use it in the future, but understanding how these fractions work will actually be useful for you. So, what is my factor? Oops, not x squared. What goes in my factor? Half of 5/4, which would be 5/8. So if you have a fraction and you want to cut it in half, you double the denominator. So plus 5/8. So if my factor is 5/8, what's my perfect square? 25/64. So plus 25/64 plus 25/64. So I need to find out what 3/4 plus 25/64 is. 73/64. So this squared equals, what was it? 73/64. So I square root, and square root. So x equals, does root 73 simplify? Pretty sure it's prime. Does root 64 simplify? 8. So I'm going to have negative 5/8 plus or minus root 73 over 8. They have the same denominator, so I can combine them into negative 5 plus or minus 73/8. Okay, and that will help you finish out the rest of your assignment from yesterday. You did hand it in. It's sitting over there on that table, bonehead. Yes. I don't.